Trump pledged to make Americans wealthier at the start of his second presidency, but now the country with the best growth prospects of any advanced economy in January looks a lot different. And Trump's America First executive actions are making the United States last in its own stock markets. To dive more into the wild swings from the Trump administration so far, I'm joined by Ted Rossman. He's a senior industry analyst at Bankrate and creditcards.com. Ted, always great to have you on the show. Want to get your take on Trump's economic priorities so far compared to his first term. Is really the way he's going about it the only difference?
Yeah, I mean, if I were to sum it up in one word, it's tariffs. I mean, that's really been the thing that's been moving markets. There really hasn't been much in terms of legislation. I know the administration is working with Congress on a tax plan that they're hoping to pass by Memorial Day. But, really so far it's been all about this on again, off again tariffs. It's roiled markets. It's led to a lot of uncertainty. That's really been the biggest theme so far. Consumers are very nervous about it. I mean, we've seen another leg down in consumer confidence recently. We have seen some pull forward in buying activity, people trying to get out ahead of price increases, but there's also a lot of wait and see going on.
Yeah, I could tell you anecdotally that the Apple store down the street from our office was pretty busy the last couple of weeks. You mentioned tax cuts. Trump wants the 2017 tax cuts to be permanent and wants to, and there's been talk about eliminating taxes on Social Security benefits. What are the economic and fiscal implications those things would have?
Well, one of the questions is going to be how to pay for it. Some of the budget hardliners are going to be saying, well, this all sounds great, but it's expensive. How are we going to pay for it? The administration's trying not to add to the national debt and deficit. So there's going to be some fight about that. A real issue to watch on the tax plan is the state and local tax deduction. That's a big deal in a lot of suburban districts, like actually where I live outside of New York City. I mean, this is a perfect example of high property taxes. Now those are capped at $10,000 in deductions, which is not nearly enough for a lot of people. And there are a lot of these traditionally blue districts that now have Republican congresspeople, and they are potentially vulnerable. That some of them have run on the promise of, oh, we're going to try to bring back that larger state and local tax deduction. And that's going to be a big sticking point, especially in places like New York, New Jersey, California, traditionally liberal places that contribute to that slight Republican majority in Congress right now. So that's one to watch. And then also what happens with all these plans to stop taxing Social Security, overtime, tips. That sounds good from a consumer standpoint, but there's again the question of how to pay for it.
Right. The big thing getting attention is getting rid of income tax for earners making less than $200,000 a year. I mean, that's a nice chunk of the population.
Yeah, I don't think that's going to happen anytime soon. I mean, I know that's potentially part of this forward-looking vision. The president talks about this external revenue service, basically trying to go back to a model where tariffs basically finance the economy. I can't see that happening anytime soon. I mean, the way things are based right now is very much reliant on the income tax, much as we maybe don't like paying it, but it is necessary. And even as these tariffs have gone up, it's not nearly enough to support the government. So I know there's talk about skinnying down the government, but we're a long way from having tariffs pay for everything. And by the way, contrary to some of what the president says, it's not really other countries that are paying tariffs. It's retailers and importers, and ultimately consumers bear a lot of that price. So that's really contributed to a lot of the negative feeling about the economy lately. People don't want to pay more.
We've been talking about tariffs and the U.S. economy and how people have been buying ahead. How have the tariffs been influencing the global trade dynamics and the conversations that have been taking place, especially last week in Washington when you had all these folks in town at the IMF World Bank meetings?
So far, the most dramatic impact has been in the stock market, which is certainly well off its lows, but still down about 6% year to date. We haven't seen a ton of price changes just yet, but people are bracing for worse. There's also a lot of wait and see when it comes to shipping, and there's a lot of orders that are supposedly on hold or perhaps being scaled back. This was some of the warning from retail executives to the president recently, which is that if they don't get this sorted out, the products might not arrive. there might be bare shelves. So it's not just a higher prices thing, it's also an availability kind of thing, because a lot of retailers don't want to be stuck paying these higher import taxes. And consumers right now have been remarkably resilient, but there's also a feeling that higher prices could be the straw that broke the camel's back with respect to a recession, because the consumer's been remarkably resilient the past few years in the face of high inflation and high interest rates, but how much longer can that last?
Tad, we have about 30 seconds left. I just want to ask you quickly if all of these different policies are going to lead to a shift in global economic leadership. I mean, what do you think we'll see here?
Well, there is a possibility that some countries could sort of do an end around and just do business without the U.S. I mean, let's say China does more with Europe and other, industrialized economies. There is some feeling that the U.S. stature is slipping. We've seen that in the bond market. The U.S. may not continue to be the standard for everything, especially if some of this lasts. We've already seen some foreign governments dumping treasuries and dollars.
All right, Ted Rossman, always great to get your take. Thank you so much for joining us.
No problem. Thank you.